have a tape. I'm going to make some announcements first. Okay, good morning, everyone. Today's day of learning, right? This month that I saw that it was just put in. Today's day of learning and today's NATEP breakfast is sponsored by Laney and Jonathan Grauman to commemorate the yahrzeit of Laney's father, Seymour Cohen, Shmuel Yisrael, and Eliezer Yosef Cohen. The Shama should have an Aliyah, right? Don't forget next Tuesday, right? We have the NATEP birthday club for Shvat, celebrating the birthdays of Shiur and Yossi Ryman. If you'd like to join us, you need to have a reservation, and reservations are going to close with the snow coming. Reservations are probably going to close by tomorrow. So if you'd like to join us, please make your reservation sooner than later. Okay, at this time, when the lady would like to come up and say a couple of words. Okay, you're on tape.
Okay. Thank you, everyone who came here today to commemorate the first yahrzeit of my father, Shmuel Yisroel ben Eliezer Yosef HaKohen, also known as Seymour I. Cohen. You have to keep that middle initial in there. Thank you, Mendy and Honey, for giving us this venue, because my father loved Torah and he loved discussing Torah. And Honey, I appreciated davening next to you all year long. It meant a lot to me. Some of you know my father well. Suri, the only one who could possibly get my father to stay in any house besides his own. And some of you only met him once or twice, but you were so impressed with him. And that's why you're here today, right? I know, Rivka, you saw how he loved my mother, right? And Phyllis, you called him, maybe you met him once or twice, I don't even know.
I met him a couple of times, yeah.
When we were in Israel, she called to check up on my parents. Amazing. Thank you.
We're all friends.
I sometimes believe that he's gone. I still think he might be in rehab somewhere where they're not letting him communicate, but I'm getting there. It's surprising because he was so strong intellectually, but when I look at photos now, I really see how physically frail he was. But he was strong, mentally strong, and sharp until the very end. When I think of him now, I remember a devoted Torah scholar, a proud Kohen, a beloved Baal Tefillah, who also poured over the davening when he was alone, someone who loved his family, especially my mother. He was like, as it says in Tehillim, "Vehu kechatan yotzei michupato, yasis kegibor larutz orach," like a groom coming from the bridal chamber, rejoicing like a warrior to run the course. He was strong and stubborn, whether he was defending a point about Megillat Esther or arguing with Jonathan and me why we brought in so many groceries. He was a consummate lawyer. They called him the pit bull. And he loved Israel, politics, the New York Mets, and kibbutzing. And he continues to impact us. Our family thinks my father may have orchestrated a plan from Olam Haba. My niece, Talia, is due to have twins in May, and my father was a twin. So and they would have turned 100 in May. So we think that he's working from above. And I'm continuing to feel my father's influence as well. When I made a decision to go to daily minyanim to say Kaddish for him, and Jonathan, you were with me every step of the way, I found myself connecting more and more to the tefillot, especially those that meant much to my father. And there are a lot of tefillot that I never even knew before, that parts of them are really resonating with me. May his neshama have an aliyah, and may he be a melitz yosher for my mother, his beloved Kala of 67 years,
Wow.
His children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, 4 generations of Kohanim, and all of Am Yisrael.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay. The Shema should have an aliyah, and our learning this morning will be dedicated to his memory. Today is the third installment of our discussion about kashrus. We started with chocolate and vanilla. Today we'll talk about strawberries. Different categories of halacha. We know about animals that are kosher or not kosher. We know about not mixing meat and dairy. But quite a few times in the Torah, it says to us, don't eat insects. They're disgusting. And somehow that has not become a major area throughout, I say, most kosher observant people. Insect infestation is real. And those who are more careful about it tend to be more on the right end of the kashrut observing spectrum, for whatever reason. We know, most of us, that our mothers kept a kosher kitchen, but I don't know how many of our mothers spent a lot of time checking leafy vegetables or fruits for bugs and insects. You obviously you rinse everything that comes from the supermarket, but I don't know how much detail went into it. For some reason, it was not a major component of a kosher kitchen in many, many homes. Today, however, it's becoming more significant for a very simple reason. Those of us who grew up in the 40s and 50s, a long time ago, remember that most farms use pesticides, DDT in particular, to keep their crops free from bugs and insects. And the government outlawed DDT because of its cancer-causing properties. And as a result, the other insecticides that were used and are being used are not quite as effective, to be truthful. And therefore, there's a higher incidence of bugs and insects in the fruits and vegetables that we eat. We may not be aware of it, but this is a fact of life. It's related, I guess, in a very tangential way to the whole issue of glatt kosher. In a simple way, glatt kosher is a phenomenon that didn't exist until the post-World War II generation in America. All that it means is that people who were very, very observant didn't trust the normal standards for kashrus, and they wanted things to be on a higher level. What glatt means smooth in Yiddish. And glatt, when you slaughter a cow or a sheep, I don't know how many of you have the joy of the pleasure of being in a slaughterhouse. It's a wonderful experience. But in any event, once you slaughter the animal, then you have to inspect the lungs to make sure that the cow, for example, does not have tuberculosis. And the way you would inspect the lung is you would blow it up and put it in a vat of water. And if there are bubbles, that means that there are holes, maybe small ones, but there are holes in the lung indicating tuberculosis or other diseases. And the problem is that not every lung of a cow is smooth. They are rough surfaced. And sometimes the mashgiach has to manually pull aside different lower layers of skin to see if, in fact, the lung is punctured or not. A glatt lung, a smooth lung, looks like a balloon. Very easy to spot. And therefore, there are no questions whether it has a hole or doesn't have a hole or it's punctured. So a glatt is a higher standard of kashrut. Today, glatt simply means that they are more careful in their preparation of the meat. It is statistically impossible for all the meat that is being advertised as glatt to really come from a glatt cow. From my limited experience in slaughterhouses, maybe 1 or 2 out of every 10 cows slaughtered has a smooth lung. Most are very rough textured. So glatt does not mean what it originally meant. It simply means that they're more careful. And that brings up all kinds of other questions too. And I'm not a vegetarian, but the more I think about it, it might be wise to be vegetarians because not everybody is as careful as we'd like them to be in the preparation of the meat that we buy. We go into a supermarket and we buy everything wrapped in plastic. Before it gets to that stage, there's the shchita, there's the bedika, checking the lungs, and then there's the deveining process. There are certain sinews and veins that have to be pulled out of the meat. You need tremendous visual acuity and tremendous manual dexterity to do that. And I remember watching my butcher on Nagel Avenue, Julius Stern, very nice fellow. And I was watching him devein a side of beef. And he was pulling things out left and right. I couldn't even see half of the things he was doing. Today, many of the meat packing factories, perhaps, and I'm not accusing anybody, maybe they're not as careful. I mean, the truth is, who goes into this business? How many of your sons are going to be shochtim or menachrim and working in kosher slaughterhouses? It's usually not from the modern Orthodox contingent of Jews. It's usually more to the right. And sometimes their attitude is, for Yenim, it's okay. You know, they're not that careful. So I'm not want to cast aspersions, but there are issues to be concerned about. So glut is one manifestation of being more careful of what you eat, whereas insects, for some reason, never made it to the same level of prominence. We always rinse everything that comes from the store. But do we go beyond that? Do we soak for, I know in my house, especially around Pesach time, there's a lot of romaine lettuce is eaten at the Seder. And as long as I can remember, my late mother-in-law, my wife, they have tubs and tubs of romaine lettuce leaves soaking in salt water because there are a lot of bugs in romaine lettuce. You have to, so you soak the leaves and then you have to rinse it out afterwards. We think that it's an extra stringency, but it's not. It's a specific biblical mitzvah doraisa not to eat insects. Now, the discussion centers around the fact, are these all insects or only those that are nearer le'einayim, that you can see with the naked eye? Because a lot of these insects are microscopic, or they're transparent. You can't even see them. They're not black. They're translucent. You can't always see them. And sometimes they're so deep into the leaves that even soaking may not get them. I don't know how many of you have ultraviolet trays at home to check for bugs. Most people don't. But there are people who, when they buy vegetables, after they soak them and rinse them, they take an ultraviolet light, either in like a pencil-like object, or they put it on a platen of ultraviolet light that they'll pick up even the tiniest microscopic insects. There are people that do that. In previous generations, before they had ultraviolet lights, people who were very careful about not eating insects would rinse it out in soapy water or salty water. And then if it's not nearer le'einayim, if you can't see them with your naked eye, most poskim would say not to worry about. I mean, you do your best. You manipulate it, you soak it. If you don't see it, eat it. Those who are very careful, there's a category called muchzak letoloim. Certain fruits and vegetables are known to have insect infestations. And we have to be more careful about it. There are something called a thrip cloth, special type of cloth that will attract the bugs. There are many, many ways to do this, but it's an area of kashrus that some people are perhaps not as careful as they are in other areas when you buy meat, not to mix meat and dairy. The OU and the CRC, they put out these different charts and tell you what to do for different types of fruits and vegetables. We talked about strawberries. That's the title of today's discussion. They're known to have bugs known as aphids or thrips, tiny, tiny bugs. under the green leaf or on, the stem. Most people, how do you eat a strawberry? You hold it by the stem and you pop it into your mouth. And you chew it off and you throw away the stem. When you're putting out a fruit platter and you have all types of fruits on it, generally speaking, unless you're very, very fancy, the green leaf stem is still there. So you can pick it up and eat it. It's finger food. That's where the bugs are, in those little crevices on the bottom of where the leaves are. You have to really remove the tops of strawberries if you want to be certain that there are no bugs. Some people put it in soapy water and they soak it, agitate it and soak it for a few minutes. And you wash it afterwards to get the soapy flavor out. But every type of fruit, the CRC puts out a list, the OU. If you have fruits and vegetables that are dried out in an oven, doesn't require additional checking because the heat will kill them. If you have certain bugs or certain fruits and vegetables that are only occasionally presented with bugs, also don't require it. But you can't always rely on washing systems to reduce infestation. Certain types of fruits, now raisins you don't have to worry about. That's really a dried grape. But there's a whole list of, if you go online to the OU, they have a whole section called the OU insect checking policies. And the CRC also publishes a whole long list of things. Rinsing, soaking, a kosher screen, colanders. These are all ways that, again, it's an area of kashrus that some people have not, how shall I say, made it into something that is normally found in most homes. Some people who are more careful check for bugs. Most people do a minimal cleansing. You buy vegetables and fruits from the fruit store, you rinse it off, and that's it. Then you eat them. But the truth is, we should be more careful about it. I would hate to call it, glatt kosher fruits and vegetables, but if you are serious about your kashrus observance, then the strawberries and lettuce, asparagus, the tight asparagus tips very often house bugs. There are many, many different fruits and vegetables. I remember I was at some function, some dinner. I don't know what organization it was. I was sitting with Rabbi Uden at the same table, and they served asparagus. And he asked that it not be served to him because he was he didn't trust that they were careful enough in inspecting the asparagus tips. So he didn't eat the asparagus. Spinach, lettuce, these are all known to have bug infestations, and it's something we have to be careful of. Because as I said, meat and dairy, slaughtering kosher animals, everybody follows that. But the same Torah tells us not to eat insects, and it's mentioned on several occasions. So you're talking about an Isur Doraisa, which is fairly significant. And therefore, strawberries, other fruits and vegetables, especially leafy ones, all this is because, again, in Europe, they had this too. They didn't have DDT. They checked very carefully. I suspect that the people who checked bugs and insects were more of the rabbinical category of people in Europe, because somehow when it came to America, this was never a big thing. But now that DDT is outlawed and the infestations grow, and especially if you're buying organic produce, they more than other produce require very, very careful rinsing and soaking. So some use salt water, some use soapy water, but this is a concern. And that's what I wanted to share with you. So we've covered chocolate, vanilla, and now strawberries. And we can get back to some other topics next week. Yeah.
Said whatever vegetables under heat, you don't have to do any further inspection. But even if you put them under heat, it might die, but they still might remain.
That's why people don't do that. Yeah, because you kill it. not only you kill the insects, you kill the fruits and vegetables too. You put it in an oven.
If it remains on the fruit.
Yeah, you can't do it. So as I say, there are those. Now, again, most restaurants, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, do not use ultraviolet screening for insects. They have a mashgiach there who goes through every head of lettuce and theoretically. I remember I was at one of these butcher places in Teaneck, and while I was waiting for my order, and there was a mashgiach there who was going through vegetables very carefully. I would prefer it if you wore gloves, but that's another story. But they do it manually. They do it manually, to my knowledge. They may have in the back an ultraviolet plate that they put the vegetables on, but there are those who, for example, there are certain conscious agencies who say you shouldn't eat asparagus. Just solve the problem. Don't serve asparagus. Solve that problem. Others have other chumras, so it depends on which hechsher you use. But as I say, if you go online, the OU and the CRC both have elaborate charts with pictures of vegetables, how to clean them, how to wash them, how to soak them to avoid eating insects. The bottom line is, if it's not near a knife, if you can't see it, if it's microscopic, don't worry about it. But sometimes these bugs are not microscopic. I'll tell you a very strange story. This happened to me last week. Very, very funny. To my mind, anyway. I have a weird sense of humor. The ShopRite that opened up on where is it? On Broadway. ShopRite on Broadway does not have a lot of kosher products. Does not have a lot of kosher products. Occasionally you'll find things with an OU. That's fine. But they don't have a kosher section the way the one in Paramus does. My wife wanted me to get cauliflower. She's making cauliflower soup. And I couldn't find frozen cauliflower. But in the frozen section of all places at this particular ShopRite, which is not known for its kosher selection, I found bodake cauliflower, which is pre-screened, so to speak. She wanted to make soup. What am I going to do? But the only problem was, I realized when I got home, well, she made me take it back, it's $10 a bag, as opposed to $3 a bag for the regular frozen cauliflower, which I took back. But very often, even the bodake stuff is not 100% sure. You find stuff in there as well. So even though they charge you a lot, how it got to that ShopRite, I have no idea how it made it in there. But in any event, healthy eating is always good. And it's all because of the DDT that we don't know, have all these bugs now. Yeah.
What about frozen and puree?
So the frozen stuff is less of a problem because that goes through a screening process. And the frozen stuff is also washed and you know, I would say it's cooked, but before they freeze it, they do wash it when they cut it up and so forth. So that's less, the frozen stuff is less of a problem, I would think. Yeah.
So with the strawberries, if you just cut off the stems of each one and then wash off the rest, it should be okay?
If you cut off the stems, but carefully wash the rest of it, because it could also be in the fruit itself. You know, there's the old story. What is worse than biting into an apple and finding a worm? Biting into it and finding half a worm. That's right. It's a great line. Any other questions? Okay, so enjoy your fruits and vegetables, but just be aware that they do require some type of cleansing process that could, you know, whether it's in soapy water or salty water, and rinsing them out. You don't have to get the ultraviolet rays unless you're very, very fussy about it. But when you think about it, who would want to eat insects? You know, although some insects, I should add before we finish up, there's one category of insects that are permitted. There's a certain species of grasshopper or locust, Chagavim tahorim, that the Torah allows you to eat. Certain species of grasshopper, and they've described what it looks like. Ashkenazic Jews do not eat grasshoppers or locusts. Sephardic Jews, especially Syrians, do. And I will never forget, many, many years ago, I must have been 11, 12 years old. I was in Boy Scout camp. And there was a group of Syrian Boy Scouts who came up for a couple of weeks. And they had jars of chocolate-covered locusts. And it was a snack. Thank you very much. Not for me, but the Torah does again. Now, why would the Torah allow locusts or certain species of locusts? All other insects you can't. It's shekets. You can't eat it. Why locusts? So think about it. When a locust plague happens, and they happen all over Africa and the Middle East, when they come, it's like a cloud, a black cloud, and they devour everything in their path. Sometimes they eat so much that they fall from the sky because they're full of grain. They're so heavy they can't fly anymore. But if you roast these locusts with all the grain that's inside, you'll have what to eat. Because if you don't, all your grain, all your crops are gone after a locust invasion. So that might be, I'm not saying it is, it might be an explanation as to why the Torah allows it. Something to think about.
Are they par?
Are they parv? I would think so. They're not fleshy, that's for sure. They're not milky either, so I guess they would be parv. Good question.
Wally,
Yes, Nathan. Yes. Nathan, you there? Hello? Nathan, turn your mic on. Nathan had a question. Just 1 second, if I can get him to turn his mic on. Nathan, your mic is off.
I got it.
All right.
Wally, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, yes.
If some locusts are not kosher, how can you tell the difference when you're going to eat them?
Only by locusts with a hashgacha.
Ask my local rabbi.
If you visit
Okay.
the Biblical Museum outside of Beit Shemesh, they sell them there.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. Up to the bench.
Rabbi Tina Bareth.
Yishem Adonai Baruch Me'atov Yad Olam. Rosh Hashanah Shalom Tovachayinu. He who has on may still call me Tifla, call me Shimon, call me Sapashem, but Mate.
What do I do with this?
Throw it out.
Throw it out?
You ready? Let me see.
Put it in the-